Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about that thing that everybody hates to talk about, nobody wants to acknowledge, and that's sales and how to do it better. And as I remind everybody, we are all salesmen, especially if you are the owner or manager of your business. And it's funny, we all go, sales. We don't want to do that. If you don't do it, your business isn't going to succeed. So what we're going to be talking about today are some fascinating tips and techniques on how to make it easier, how to make it more successful, which is, of course, what we really want to be talking about. So please join me in welcoming Jeroen Corthout to our program today. Welcome, Jeroen.
Hey, nice to be here.
Great. Well, and I love that you say nice to be here because you're actually in Antwerp. Oh my gosh. I've interviewed people from around the world, but I think you are my first guest from Antwerp. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Antwerp is a lovely city. For those who don't know, it's like a city, but not too big. It's not like Brussels where it feels like a big city. We have a river here. We have the second biggest port of Europe.
Oh, okay.
80% of the diamonds in the world pass through Antwerp. And a lot of cocaine as well, but we cannot talk about
that. We won't talk about that. We won't talk. I think a lot of people know about the diamonds. Here in the States, there's one of the, we hear a lot in commercials about, they've gone to, it's a diamond broker, they've gone to Antwerp and, we see it in like those crime TV shows, and things like that. But yeah, it's fascinating. And I love learning about all of these other places. But let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll really dive into the topic. So Jeroen Corthout is founder and co-founder and CEO of Salesflare, an intelligent CRM built for small business owners selling B2B, mostly popular with agencies and fast-growing startup companies. Salesflare itself was founded when Jeroen and his co-founder, I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning, Lieven wanted to follow up on the leads for their software company in an easier way. They didn't like to keep track of their leads manually and built Salesflare, which pulls customer data together automatically, then actively helps you follow up. It's now the most popular CRM on Product Hunt and top rated on review platforms like G2 for its ease of use and automation features. So again, Jeroen, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Well, I always love knowing a little bit about my guests. So how is it that you got where you are today?
Where do you want me to start exactly?
Yeah, tell us about, so you're clearly not, I think you might be one of those dreaded millennials, maybe. And it's funny, I love millennials because all the millennials I talk to are very, very talented, very professional, all of those wonderful things. But this is, I actually looked at your background on LinkedIn, and it's very fascinating. I mean, you've had kind of a varied career path to get here.
Yeah. I don't know where to start. Millennial. I'm 35.
I think you're a millennial.
Millennial, so okay. I actually grew up seeing the internet grow up. So I think we got our first internet connection when I was 11 or 12 or something. It was this modem type kind of thing.
And it went, right?
I can still remember that. I'm not that young. And that's actually also sort of where I started my my entrepreneurship journey. It was around when I was 14 or 15, I discovered GeoCities, which was this platform on which you could build very simple websites with all this kind of animated stuff and a counter at the bottom. It was pretty awful, but it was simple, and it was the beginning of something bigger. Because when I was about 15, 16, I discovered the joy of building websites, but then actual websites. And back then I was still in Flash. So Flash has recently been killed off. So it's not something you build websites in anymore. But at that moment, you could build your full website in Flash if you wanted to.
Right.
And I started building websites for other people, and I got some stuff in return. You know, it's really like the start of a business. And I saw myself starting a company in that direction. And I studied engineering, but when I went for the open day at the university, the first thing I went to was computer engineering, because I thought that was the path to start my website agency. Seemed a bit boring though, and the people were a bit nerdy, so I decided to do something else. I ended up doing electrotechnical engineering together with business management, and then moved in my master's into biomedical engineering. Just because that sounded like something in which I could make more impact, and it was also much more interesting to study. But then when I was applying for engineering jobs, because I thought I need some experience first, right, before starting my own business. I applied for different engineering jobs right out of school, and most of the time I got this really, how can I say? It was partly interesting because I could build stuff, is something I like, but there was really a lack of customer connection.
Oh, okay.
Like I would sort of be in the back room building something, and that didn't really appeal to me. At some point, I was in an interview, and they said like, "Oh, so maybe you would like to be a project manager. That's more with customers."
Right.
And then they made me do a test, and after the test, they decided I was not a good project manager, so I wouldn't be good for the job. And that evening, I was really frustrated. I used the credit card of a friend of mine and applied to do a test at business school to get in. Yeah, you need to pay for the admissions test. And I got in. I did business school for a year after convincing my parents and saying that I would pay everything. And then I actually managed to switch my career completely. I didn't start off in engineering at all. I started off in marketing in a pharmaceutical company. And why? It was because I figured that that was probably the best way to learn how to put a product in the market, to work with customers, to, manage all that. In the end, I didn't get to work much with customers because that was the salespeople doing that. I couldn't communicate with patients because that was illegal. The only thing I would do was a very limited thing. It was basically making brochures and sort of very limited campaigns.
It doesn't sound too interesting.
Teaching the salespeople how to use stuff. And it was like, and I did that for, I think I was super bored of it after 6 months. I found another job after 8 months. I stopped after 10. The new job I found was actually because I was looking to start a business from there. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And I had dinner with a guy that I knew. And I was at that moment thinking about starting a web agency. It was still with me. But it was going to be for the pharma industry because I noticed that in pharma, nobody understood anything digital.
Interesting.
They were all marketing people or former salespeople, and they didn't know anything about websites, let alone all the other things on the internet. But I had dinner with that guy, and it seemed that he actually had a company doing that with 30 people. Not just websites, but much broader, like full digital campaigns and strategy and research and all those kind of things. And he said, join us. I'll teach you everything you need to know in 6 months. And if you want to leave, then you do whatever you like. I ended up joining them for 4 years. Yeah. It was much more interesting in the sense that I was an account manager there. So I had my own clients. I would listen to their issues. I would make proposals, quotes. They would buy, and then I would make sure that things would get delivered. So part of it I would do myself, part of it I would outsource to other people. And that was a really interesting sort of immersion into having my own business, but without a lot of risk. But it also, I think it's really starting to get boring after 2 years. The first 6 months especially were very exciting. So at some point I decided to go part-time to start my own business. That unfortunately failed. It was a nice idea, and there was something behind it, like it was a way for doctors to stay on top of the latest research. The only issue was that I didn't have any proper business model for it.
Oh, okay.
And that's not good for business, obviously, but yeah, I was learning. So I did a few other things, and from the one thing I rolled into the other. And actually my current co-founder is somebody that I met in a startup accelerator while I was working on that platform for doctors. And at some point he calls me and he says, I'm going to Vegas. There's a big IBM conference there. We sell software that is compatible with theirs. We have a booth there and we still need some salespeople. Would you like to join? I pay everything and you just come.
Ooh, Vegas.
And I was like, sure, that sounds good. So we went there. It was very successful. I basically would stand in the hallway, ask people, do you use IBM Cognos? And they would say, yes, I do. And then I'm like, do you have this issue? They're like, yes, we do. Like, oh, we have these things for it.
Hey.
And then they would ask some technical question. And then I would be like, oh, I cannot answer that. But my colleagues over here, which were all business intelligence software specialists, they can answer your question. And then I would just go in the hallway again, grab the next person, upload them to the, In the end, we ended up with, I think 130 leads.
Wow.
And it was very exciting. We were like, oh, this is going to be great business. So I decided to come help and join the business. But then very quickly we had to sort of organize that sales pipeline. We had all these interested people that said they were interested in buying perhaps, but we still had to close all the deals, right? And in the marketing consultancy, I had been working with a CRM called Salesforce. A lot of people might know it because it's the biggest
it's
one
pretty
out
big.
there. Yeah. They control 20% of the market. It is a CRM that initially was started for small and medium-sized businesses, but very quickly grew out to be an enterprise CRM.
Right.
And we use it at pharma companies and also used it internally. And our CEO really loved it. But I think he was about the only person out there loving it.
And he probably wasn't using it as much as everybody else.
He was looking at the reports. Yeah, we were filling out stuff. The thing is, I really try to use it to organize myself for my sales, because people said that's what you do with the CRM. Like, you keep track of your customers, your tasks, when you need to follow up whom, what you did and stuff. It only seems so difficult in Salesforce and so much data input and so much, that I just went back to organizing myself in Outlook. And I had this task program also called Wunderlist at that moment. And I actually saw that it was the same for most of my colleagues. Nobody was using Salesforce to organize themselves.
And you were paying a lot of money for it.
Yeah, I wasn't, but yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheap, no, because I think we needed access to the API, and that immediately puts you on the enterprise plan or something.
Right.
Very, very expensive. But that made that, we all hated working with the CRM. There was basically nothing in there, just stuff that was needed for management reporting. It didn't help us. And we often even in sales meetings had fights about, oh, this is not in Salesforce. Oh, so you're also talking to that client in another country? Yeah.
Oh, no.
Why didn't we know? You need to put that in Salesforce, this kind of stuff. and our CEO would always say, what's not in Salesforce doesn't exist. So
it's encouraging you to use it because it cost him a lot of money.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but the thing is, I found it really weird that it didn't work. It was such an essential part of the business, and we were paying a lot of money for it, but it didn't really seem to bring us much. But in any case, I didn't do much with that insight for a few years until he came back from that conference. And we had to follow up all these leads.
Right. You had 130 people who went, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I remember internally they were using Zoho, which is basically like a Salesforce copy from India. So almost the same, but much cheaper. And I saw the same issues and then went out and we looked at the market and we found some programs that were nicer, like better user experience, more focus on helping you sell, like organizing your sales follow-up and knowing who to follow up when and having an overview on your sales pipeline. There were much better things out there, but still we always face the same issue. And the issue wasn't per se the software as such. It was us not filling out the software properly. And it seemed like there was this huge expectation, like being I don't know, say laid upon us. We were expected to be these extremely disciplined people, this like perfect data input robots that anything that happens, we would put it in there. So if we would meet a new person at the company, we would know, we were like, oh, this needs to go in the CRM, make a new contact, copy the phone number from their signature, copy this, copy that, fill it all out. Then you send another email, you're like, okay, I'm gonna put that in the CRM, you make a call, and each time you're switching between actually doing stuff and documenting that in another system. And unless you do this extremely consistently, it works and it actually helps you. It's like your memory. It's everything is in there. You can rely on it. You know what last happened. And
you've got your notes of the meeting in there, all those various things.
Everything is in there. Now the thing is that doesn't happen. You might
That's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is a lot of time, but it's also, even if you believe that it's going to help you sell, it's very hard to keep up. And at some point you don't, either because you're selling well or you're focused on something else. And then the downward spiral begins where you input a bit less, it becomes less useful. You input even less. And then
pretty soon it was called Bob Tuesday. And you're like, all righty then. Which Bob? When? What Tuesday?
Yeah, and then the system starts falling apart, and at that moment you start disappointing customers again. You don't follow up at the right moments. You forgot what they said. You say this, and they're like, "Oh, we already discussed it," and they're like, "Oh, did we?" And then it starts becoming very disrespectful to your customers, and you also lose a lot of sales. So we were going through that over and over again, and then we figured like, this is impossible. Like we are doing something in one system, and then we're putting that in another system, which is really weird because what we did in the first system is already digital. Like we sent an email, they send us an email signature. We book a meeting in our calendar, we place a phone call, we maybe have some email tracking, we have some website tracking, and all these things are in different places, but certainly not in the CRM. And then we figured like, why don't we build a system that plugs into all of these places, sucks in all that data, organizes it for you, extracts things like email signatures and stuff, takes some extra info from company databases, organize it all for you. And it actually keeps track of stuff. And the only thing you need to do is like, okay, I'm selling to this company. And then it says, it seems like you know that person and that person and that person. And the CRM knows that because you've been emailing with them and you have meetings with them. And then you add it, and it's like, whoop, all the emails you had with them get pulled in, the meetings, the calls, the email signatures are already there. You've used email tracking, so you see like, oh, they opened, they clicked, oh, they also went to the website. You know, everything is in there automatically. That was 7 years ago, our idea, and nowadays it works. We're actually, we have more than 2,000 companies actively using it. And nowadays we're working further than that. Like, we have automated the data, which helps you have everything, know everything. There are automated reminders so that you're always helped to follow up. So it's much more difficult to forget stuff. And nowadays we're working more and more to like unlock that data, build more automation on top of that, because we believe that there's still so many things in a salesperson's job that are really not things they ought to do.
Right.
Because what they ought to do is talk to customers and
data input
them.
is not what they should be doing.
No. Yeah. And there's so many routinous things that make you feel like a robot when you're doing it during the day, that actually is more like robot work. It's stuff that computers can take over, and they can do it in a much better way because they are robots.
Right.
And that's still all the things we're working on today. So that's the things that keep me busy.
Great. I love it. You know, and of course the problem with manually entering things is it's so easy to make errors, especially in somebody's email and their telephone number. You know, that's just, and, you know, and so when it's automated, when it's pulling it from, say, their email that they sent to you, I mean, clearly that was correct, you know, and, you know, all of those things. And so that just eliminates one problem right there that, you know, that so many times happens. But, you know, what I find interesting is that, you know, whether we're 100-person, 1,000-person company or one, we should be doing this. You know, I got out my pile of business cards here. This is what a lot of small business owners and even, you know, large business owners have for their CRM. You know, they write notes on the back of it. You know, because right, you know, you're at a networking event, you're at a conference, and you meet them and you go, oh, okay, well, this person is interested in, you know, and so you write it, which is why we're all told we shouldn't have anything on the back of our business cards. Give space for people to write things. And then we come back and we might dutifully enter them into something. You know, at the very least, we might look them up on LinkedIn, send them a request to connect. You know, maybe we remember to personalize it. You know, now I always tell people, always, even if you just met them 10 minutes ago, personalize it. Just because, you know, they might not look at it for several days, weeks, and they're going, who is this person? I don't remember them. So you want to say, hey, you know, we just met at X, you know, whatever. But then everything comes to a screeching halt because we've got our pile of business cards that we just keep adding to. And, you know, you said it several times. One of the keys to doing this successfully is having things automated. You know, whether it's an email that goes to them that reminds them, hey, we chatted 3 months ago, we met at CES, you know, whatever it's saying, you know, or, you know, you promised to follow up with them on X date. So, hey, it's X date. You know, and so in the long run, of course, that shortens the length of time that we're spending on it because it's all there. And our little brains are just, you know, so overloaded that we can't remember those things. You know, it's like, now, when did I say I'd follow up with them? And so then we get sidetracked and we don't ever follow up with them. You know, and so, you know, it needs to be automated. But of course, it needs to be automated with a good system. I always absolutely love it when I get an email that says, dear first name. You know, and I'm like, oh, something didn't work right with their system, you know, and so of course that's where it's important to have a system that works well. But what happens is you have two of those, you know, several that go out incorrectly, then you're like, nope, not going to use the program again. Where it could have been user error, it could have been, you know, all sorts of things, and you know, and so that's where it's good to have a good solid program, but. You know, let's you know, really should a one-person shop or, you know, a very small business, should they be using something like CRM, or is it only just for the big companies?
Let me first start off with sharing how we go about when we go to a conference.
Okay.
It's maybe interesting. So basically, we have a mobile app.
Okay.
When I meet someone at a conference, I open up the mobile app, I say new contact, and at the top there's this little photograph thing. I put the business card, it takes a picture, it sends it to our servers, the servers interpret it, they get the data out. It's all immediately there, like first name, last name, email address, everything. You can still correct it if it made a mistake. And then I add a little tag at the bottom that is usually a specific tag for the conference we go to.
Right.
Like if we go to Slush, which is a conference we go each year in Finland, I type Slush 21, for instance, as the tag. I hit save. At that moment, in our program, we have a thing called email workflows. And that basically can send automated emails or even automated sequences of emails. So in there, we say everybody that gets tagged with Slush 21 gets this email. And it says, hi, first name. It actually fills out the first name.
The real first name.
Yeah. And if you don't have the first name, which you usually do when you scan a business card, but you can put a fallback like hi there, for instance.
Okay.
Whatever. And then it's like, oh, we just met at the conference, blah, 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 blah. And I just said you could get a discount code. Well, we usually make also different automated emails per type of person we meet. We have for partners, for customers, for investors.
Right. So it's more and more specific.
Yeah. And then that sends out immediately. But then I can say, okay, people are at the conference, right? They're not immediately going to answer. So I set a delay. If the conference is on Thursday and Friday, it's better to have it on Tuesday or something. Right,
because Monday they're swamped going through everything.
Yeah, but then on Tuesday I'm already there again, and I say, hey, we met, and this and that, and then you can even have a third email, and if you like a fourth, it's maybe a bit too much. In some cases it works, but and like that, we just leave the conference and the program takes over, and we don't get stuck with this bunch of business cards. The emails are also not impersonal. What I often get is like I come back from a conference and I left my business card in some places, and then I get this sort of email newsletter type style thing that like we met at the booth or something, and I'm like, okay, cool, but
yeah, I didn't go there. I don't remember that, but sure.
Yeah. So that's how we do it. We have more behind it as well. We also make it visual with a pipeline, and then start following up actively. But the basics is like the business card scanner and then the email sequences.
Right. And that makes me think of a little just thing that we all need to remember when we're getting business cards printed. Make them, don't pick the fancy frilly fonts, or too teeny. I love it when I'm going, I can't read this. Make it something so that even if somebody's not using a scanner, that they can look at and read, and so that's just kind of one of those little asides. But, what I love about what you're talking about is you can personalize it. And I'm sure, obviously for the ones where you really had a great conversation and there's something very specific you're following up on, that's a different thing. This is kind of the general ones. But it always amuses me when I go, to a conference, to a networking thing, to whatever, and I get this, hey, it was great meeting you, and wham, here is what I'm going to sell you. It's like, no. You still have to build that relationship first, because I might have just thought, hey, look, there's candy on their table.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's, whether you're using a system or not, personalize it, folks. Make sure that you're following up appropriately, and don't try and sell. It's there's that old adage that we've said before. Don't try and marry somebody, during the first date. You need to kind of build that relationship with them, and I love that, you have a variety of different things in your program, because that's the other thing, that we get these general follow-up emails from people, and you're like, no, this doesn't pertain. Or worse, you're going, wait a minute, I asked about X and they're not even saying that. And so, that really is where I think a lot of relationships, it's kind of the make or break. If you follow up with an email with me and it's not anywhere close, I don't care. You've lost me right there.
That's why I usually suggest that before you automate this kind of things, that you first do it manually a few times.
Right.
So you kind of get the like if you automate something right away, it's very hard to have empathy for the people at the other side. You're basically automating it for numbers, whatever. But when you do it manually a few times, and each time you empathize, like, who is the person on the other side?
Right.
What do they exactly want? At some point, you'll see that it's not too different for different people. Or in many cases, at least. So you can make something that works for everyone. If that's something you want to do, it might be that you want to stay with the personalized version. While a lot of the emails we get nowadays, or the LinkedIn requests, they're just so there's
spammy.
Zero empathy in them. Yeah, it's a total lack of empathy, and when you read it, you wonder, like, do they really think that's what a human being would connect with, or
right. Right, yeah, sometimes they get too salesy. They're providing too much information, as opposed to, hey, can we talk with you about this?
Yeah,
sure. But the nice thing about having it automated is we are so busy. I mean, we go to something, even if it's just a lunch. We go to a networking lunch. We come back. We've got 3 voicemails, 10 emails. All these various things. Somebody pops into your office, Zooms, whatever, and immediately you're sidetracked. And 4 days later, you're going, where is that pile of business cards from, if you even remember that you brought those cards back? And so that's what I like about your system. And there are other systems that do that too, where it is automated, and you can get stuff in pretty quickly, because it is that immediate connect point. I tell people, connect with them within 24 hours. Even if they're not responding, at least reach out within 24 hours. Now, if I met 5 people, that's not going to be hard. If I met 25 people, that's going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, it depends. When I'm at conferences, what I also try to do is then next to it, just very quickly connect on LinkedIn. Type a few words, but at least something personal.
Yep. I always say, hey, we just met at X, whatever it was.
Or great to meet you at.
Yeah. So that because we all like to think that we're memorable, but we, for the most part, aren't. and that's memorable. Yeah, I know. No. I like to think I'm pretty memorable too, but I want to remind them, hey, we just met at Marietta Business Association, or whatever, so that they've got that mental link in there too. But we've been talking about conferences and networking and all of those things. And, as we record this, we're in the middle. I think we're just going to be in the middle of the pandemic for who knows how long. So we're not meeting people face to face. We're not going to conferences. Here in the United States, they're doing CES, which is the largest tech conference, I believe, in the world. They're doing it remotely. That'll be interesting to see how that works. I've attended CES. Oh, yeah. I remember that was before I had a fit tracker on my watch. I mean, our booth was probably a half mile in. It was a big place, and so that'll be interesting to see how they do that. But we are having to work remotely, and I think one of the cool things is a lot of people are liking it more, but a lot of people don't like it because it obviously loses that personal touch. So let's talk about how do we do sales remotely? COVID or no COVID, how do we work remotely like this?
Well, it's
you wrote a great blog post on this.
there's a lot that goes into it. I think many of us are getting better at it right now. Like you said, we're halfway the pandemic now. I remember people in the beginning being completely like, how can I sell through Zoom? Now
Right.
people don't
Zoom?
really
What's
feel.
Zoom?
Yeah. Yeah, I personally had been doing it already for about 5 years before that, because we sell all over the world.
Right.
We sell software on the internet, so I hardly come out of the office, and now I hardly come out of home. Uh, so the biggest change for us was internally, whereas with the team we used to be in the same room. Now we're all in our own home, so that all also runs over Zoom. We have our meetings all on Zoom with a Google Doc on the left and all the faces on the right. But yeah, there's like a plus side and a negative side, I would say, to remote selling. The plus side is it's so much more productive. We don't need to spend our day in the car, or even for some people planes. If here in Belgium, at least, if I want to have a maximum amount of meetings driving around in the car, it's probably 4 or something that I can do. At least the type of meetings I do. And then my day is over and I'm very tired.
Right. Because all you did was sit in traffic.
Yeah, essentially. Well, not just in traffic, in lobbies, wait a bit more here, wait a bit more there, get a coffee, go into a conference room, all this kind of, all the different things. And then it's a bit later, and then you may be late for the next thing, and it's very stressful. With nowadays, like, remote selling is so much more productive. If you want, you can do 16 30-minute meetings back to back. It's maybe a bit too much.
That's a Zoom overload.
But it's possible. I have days like that where I spend my whole day in calls, and I have a lunch break, obviously, and sometimes a call is rescheduled or so, and that gives some breathing room, but it's not impossible. The main issue, though, is that these calls, they become slightly less memorable, to use your words from before. It's a bit harder to make an impression on people. First of all, body language is very important, right? I don't know what the exact percentage is again, but 60% or something. And you can see my body language right now up until my chest, and everything below there you're completely missing. That's really a pity. You miss out on a lot already. You basically only see my face, and sometimes my hand comes up. So it's very important to really do your best to counteract that. Also, the other thing is, I'm not really there. You don't have that sense of me being here.
Right. That
I'm
personal touch type of.
Yeah, I'm like 2 screens away.
Right.
Like,
it's kind of like talking to somebody who's on a TV program.
Yeah. Well,
yelling at the football player, right?
Yeah, well, the football player doesn't respond, so it's still a bit different, but it's not as personal as seeing people. It's not as real.
Right.
So you need to compensate for that, make everything a bit more, how can I say, more human, maybe a bit more informal. You don't need to wear a suit to have a meeting on Zoom. It's actually very weird.
I know.
I think I've had 2 people or so far that wore a suit. All the others understood that was weird. Sometimes your dog can start barking, or your kids can
the
walk
kid
in.
wanders past.
That's all fine.
Right.
I mean, you can even involve them, introduce. It makes everything so much more human. Like I said, sometimes you see my hands. Maybe it's good to actually use your hands a bit more on screen. Use a bit more tone of voice. I'm not a huge tone of voice user, so I need to compensate a bit. But sometimes, like, to really use that to make a bit more impact. Those are all tips to make sure that you get the most out of your meetings.
Right.
But then in between the meetings also, people are not there, right? They're reading your emails.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can call them or so.
Mm-hmm.
So what really helps is, first of all, if you use a bit of tracking,
Mm-hmm.
as everything is more digital,
Right.
you can track whether they read your emails, click
Mm-hmm.
on stuff, go to your site.
Mm-hmm.
That helps you to understand what they are up to,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're interested, what the
Mm-hmm.
right moment is to follow up, because otherwise you have no idea. I mean,
Right.
you're in different
Mm-hmm.
places and there's no way to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, in that process, it's very easy to be ignored. Extremely easy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is not there, you
Mm-hmm.
just see a message and you're like, oh, ignore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
later.
it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If when you go to someone's office, that's different. But
Mm-hmm.
in the digital era, ignoring something is so easy.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to lower the friction in the process, make
Mm-hmm.
everything more seamless.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, not using a meeting scheduler, I think, is a major
Right.
major loss,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because scheduling meetings will take different emails,
Mm-hmm.
which takes a lot of work.
Right.
First of all, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's horrible. I never do it.
Mm-hmm.
People get my link in, or I ask, like, if it's a really important person, like, or you can send me your link.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's the
Mm-hmm.
same for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your effort to schedule, right?
Right.
But if you have to go through these emails, it takes a lot of work. You're
Right.
basically always emailing,
Mm-hmm.
looking at your
Yeah, because that's
calendar.
well, did Tuesday work? No, not Tuesday. How about Wednesday at 3? No, 3 doesn't work. And by about the third one, I'm like, no. And
Yeah,
there's so many good scheduling programs out there.
and
I use one for this program, and now I use a paid version of it because I
yeah,
need that much. But there's free versions, folks. There's no
definitely.
excuse to not be doing this.
Yeah, and that was my point was going to be that it's not just the fact that you have a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
it's also introduces friction,
Right.
because it might be that at some point in one of these emails, the
Mm-hmm.
other person doesn't reply anymore, and then you lost them, and you're
Right.
basically losing out on a great deal,
Mm-hmm.
just because there was a bit too much friction
Mm-hmm.
in the sales process.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you made it too hard for them.
yeah, just try to get that away, make everything as easy as possible, make the things that they need to do as easy as possible. So for instance, when we do outreach emails, I usually say something very short, try not to sell too much, but I'm like, this is that, who should we talk with? It's very easy. They just need to say, oh, that's my colleague Greg or something. And you made a little connection. It's these little things you can only ask from people, not like, hey, would you like to jump on a 30-minute call? People are like, yeah, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have 30 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really making it as easy as possible, even easier than normal. Like make a frictionless sales process completely tailored to the buyer.
Right.
And in there, try to track them as well as possible, so you know where they are, you know what they're interested in, and you can make it as personal as possible for them.
Right. And I mentioned your blog. You've got another great blog post on here with email templates, because I think that's the next thing. I mean, you were just saying, make it simple, make it short. If I get something from somebody that is paragraphs long, they've lost me usually at the first paragraph. If it's 4 almost bullet point sentences, I'm like, oh, okay, I can read through this. And so that's where it really, because if they want, if I want more information, I'll ask for it. But I don't want to have to weed through all of this just to get to it. So, I love that you had those templates on there, because, and there's obviously a big variety of them depending on the situation. So it's, again, folks, we need to make it easy for people. I think especially now where we're working from home, you're used to working from home. I've been working from home for 20 years. So this is not a big deal for me. But for many people, there's, even though they've been doing this for months, they're still getting used to it. They've got kids who may or may not be in virtual school. That varies almost day to day. They might have a spouse that's home, all these other things that are pulling at their time. It was easier when you went into an office and you were just kind of in this little literal box focusing on what you were doing for the day. And now you've got all these distractions. So the easier you make it for people, the more successful it will be.
Yeah, definitely. Fully agree.
And again, it is just so important to be following up. I'm one of the guilty ones that, I don't follow up. I don't remember, all of these various things. And then I think, well, I'm not going to be a part of that group because I don't get anything from it. Well, I don't get anything from it because of me. I'm not following up. I'm not doing what I need to be doing. And I think that is, one of the things that happens with people is they get frustrated. Well, it's not everybody else. It's us. It's the habits that we have. If you tell somebody, hey, I will call you so that we can set up an appointment, then call them. This is not a big deal. If say you're having a great conversation and they mention, a subject, then maybe you have an article that you can send them a link to. Doesn't even have to be your own, but follow up with people, because if you're busy, they're busy, and you add those two busies together and nobody ever connects.
Yeah, it's definitely your job to keep track of what is the best moment to follow up, do it, try it again. If it doesn't really work, try another angle. Don't go with the easy stuff like, hey, any news or
right. Yeah. The open-ended, please.
Try to give some kind of updates or involve something else, try a different angle. And try to keep the overview somehow. It's extremely important. I think the best salespeople are those who can make every customer feel like they're the only one.
Right.
But do that at scale. Like even if you're talking to tens of customers or hundreds of customers at the same time, give every customer the experience that they are extremely cared for.
Right.
And that's you can only do with proper organization. It doesn't just happen. So if you still think you don't need any system, and I'm not saying you need a CRM,
right.
you could.
The pile of business cards might work. Or an Excel spreadsheet or something. The pile of business cards, right? How many piles of business cards do we have? I'm sure you don't.
Not anymore. No.
But
I visualized them all and they're gone, and I haven't gone to any conferences, so currently I'm out.
And one of the things that is I always find, as we're doing this, and we've kind of mentioned it, is it does have to be personal and authentic. I got an email this morning from somebody who said, I have a personal video message I recorded just for you. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really cool. So I open it and it says, hi, friend. So clearly this was, a mass email that went out to everybody. And I didn't listen any further. I mean, right there, he lost that authenticity, that my trust, maybe more is the way to put it, because I thought, no, and so his email could have just been tweaked slightly to say, I've recorded a message for my friends. Right. And then I probably would have listened to the whole thing. But I recorded it personally just for you. I'm expecting his video to start out and say, hey, Deb, but hey, friend, no.
Hey Deb, and then something that applies to you and all.
Right.
I had my birthday 3 months ago or so, and you have no idea about the things I got on LinkedIn. It was all kinds of weird automated stuff. One person was, for instance, taking his name and then wishing me stuff with the letters of his name.
Well, that's kind of unique.
It's very unique. Another person had this video, like the one you're mentioning, like auto emailed, and it faked that it was for me, but it was super clear that it wasn't. And first it starts off like wishing me all kinds of stuff, and I was like, okay, this is funny. But then towards the end, he was promoting his book.
That's special.
Yeah,
I've had people send me an image of their book and say, buy this for your birthday. No,
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean with this lack of empathy when you start automating. Um, if you also do that in personal messages, then maybe you might not have empathy, or so, I don't know.
Right.
When you automate it, it's just very easy to fall into that trap. Just think like, oh, this is smart, and then just set it up, and then
Right.
you know?
Right. And we've talked, we've mentioned LinkedIn. To me, one of the worst things is when I get an email from someone that I know I only know through LinkedIn. And so they pulled my email address off. Well, my email address is there because I want people to be able to connect me, but don't pull that off and put me in your spam email. And I always know when they've done that because my LinkedIn profile is my full name. It's Deborah.
Yeah.
I go by Deb. And, and there's, it's just too hard to change it now on LinkedIn. But, but yeah, I do know if they have pulled it up. And then, every once in a while, about once a month, I get the creepy, where they've pulled my name, my email address off of LinkedIn. They think I'm lovely. They hope this isn't inappropriate. And I'm like, yeah, no, ew.
What I've actually done is like in LinkedIn, my email address is not, I have an Hotmail address, but I changed it specifically for LinkedIn. You can make aliases, and I made it LinkedIn spam here at outlook.com.
I love it.
So when people email me on LinkedIn spam here at outlook.com,
you don't even
first
open
of all,
it.
no, it's LinkedIn spam. And secondly, I mean, how non-thoughtful can you be to send it to LinkedIn spam here? I mean, then you haven't checked anything.
Right.
You didn't even go through the list of email addresses.
Yeah. I get annoyed when they spam me on LinkedIn, but when they take my LinkedIn information and spam me outside, then I get really annoyed. And so that comes back to, they might have the greatest product, the greatest service, whatever it is in the world. But because we started out annoyed, we're not going any further.
Yeah. The only automated LinkedIn connection request I send right now is to people who sign up for a trial. And I do it like this. So if you sign up for a trial on our site of our software, if you have an email address that contains, no, you don't need the email address. In any case, if it's a business email address, it will probably find you on LinkedIn automatically, like through Google.
Right.
And then it sends you an automated connection request, and it will say, hey, Deb, welcome to the Salesflare family. Nice to have you joining us. Let me know if there's any feedback or questions.
Right.
I don't try to sell you anything.
Right.
I just send something to say, here I am. I mean, I'm maybe leading this company, but I'm not afraid to talk to customers. If you have feedback or questions, come to me. But I will not say anything like, or here's a discount, or
you can do the discount later, and that's just part of that process of getting people to know, like, and trust you. If you try and smack them over the head with it right away, it's not going to work.
No, I don't want to either.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got about 5 minutes left. So tell us in more detail, because there are lots of CRM products out there, but tell us a little bit more in detail, more specifically about what Salesflare does.
Yeah, so Salesflare is a sales CRM. So it helps you with the most important thing in your company, apart from delivering your services or your product, is selling them. It helps you specifically, mostly with keeping track, following up, all this kind of things, seeing what you have in pipeline, how much you're selling and all that, who your customers are, I don't know. And it does that for B2B businesses. Specifically, we do that because we like to keep it simple. So supporting too many types of businesses just makes the CRM more complicated.
Right.
And we focus on small and medium-sized businesses because those are the ones that look for something more practical, not something that is built for the organization, but something that the end users really want to work with, which we believe is essential. Because if the salespeople, the end users, are not working with the CRM, then you don't get any of the benefits from the CRM. And what sets us apart from there's obviously other companies selling a similar thing. There's actually, according to G2.com, there's more than 640 CRMs in the market.
Wow.
So you have a lot of choice. But we are the according to G2.com as well, the third or fourth easiest to use CRM. The second one when it comes to best customer relationships. And the first one when it comes to ease of implementation.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're really well ranked when it comes to ease of use and support and all that. But you know why we started Salesflare? It's because of the automation. It's helping people to actually keep their CRM alive instead of it immediately failing and you not getting any of the benefits from the CRM. So it's these two things together that set us apart as a sales CRM for small and medium-sized businesses.
Right. I love it. Well, and we won't discuss pricing because that changes, especially because some of these programs are listened to years later. But it's very reasonable, very, very reasonable. When I was looking at the website, I was thinking, wow, that's very inexpensive. And I've mentioned your blog. I mean, whether somebody works with you or not, there's great blog posts. I'm not sure who all writes them, but such great information. And so I encourage people to go, even if that's all you look at. But it's salesflare.com, easy peasy. Can't get much more difficult than that, or much more easy than that. And so great information there. So how do people, I just mentioned salesflare.com, but how do people find and connect with you?
Yeah. So salesflare.com is with Flare for those who are wondering how it's spelled. And you can read all about the software there and start a trial if you like, anywhere between 7 and 30 days to try the software. We give you extra days on the trial as you set it up, because we've seen that people who set it up better are also more successful in the long run. Sell more, stay longer with us, all this kind of stuff. And if you want to connect with me, you can do it on LinkedIn, believe it or not. But please include a personal message. Otherwise, I will not be able to distinguish you from the
say you listen to this program.
Yeah, exactly. If you do that, I'll connect with you. I really appreciate it. And we can be in touch, maybe discuss whatever you want to discuss. I'm happy to talk.
Perfect. I love it. Well, this has been so much fun. And I love getting into the real meat of how to do business, because this is something, I mentioned at the very start, we all go, ugh, sales, ugh. And because we're doing that, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not going to be successful because we're immediately thinking, yuck. And so when you have a tool that makes it easier, that makes it, it's not going to be there's still work to be done. It doesn't just poof, magically start working. But, when it's an easy product to use, and more importantly, helps you become successful, that's what's important about this. So I do encourage people to check out salesflare.com. So Jeroen, do you have any final comments or thoughts for everybody?
No, I would say, indeed, like you said, try to bring authenticity back in sales. Imagine you're selling to a friend. I think it's not very complicated sales. It's just thinking like, how would I like to be treated? How would someone give me the best possible experience buying? And then be very consistent, systematic, respectful. And well, one of the very simple secrets in sales is just map out your sales process, which should be fully aligned with the buying process. Like I just said, it needs to be what the person on the other end is expecting. And then just take people through the different steps, not dogmatically, not like, oh no, this is not possible, we always go like this, not like that. But it's good to have next steps, because then at every step, your only job is explaining to the other person, like, okay, we've done this now I'll do this, and then you can take that person by the hand and guide them through the sales process. And if they're not a good fit to sell to, you disqualify them and you stop trying to sell to them. But to all the others, you just keep guiding them through the sales process until they buy. It's I think sales is not as complicated and not as scary, and it doesn't have to be as salesy as most people think.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, I really have been having just a great discussion with Jeroen Corthout. And until next time, I'm Deb Creer. Everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.